What's up, everybody? This is CJ with More Life Video Podcast, and I have an amazing guest today, Dre Evans. What's up, Dre?
What's happening?
How you been, brother?
Good, man. Blessed. Can't complain.
Dre, when I actually saw you online first, and I was like, this guy's killing it, because I saw you up, like, you had a bunch of like meetups and stuff online, like you were connecting people, and I was like, I'm just being transparent, like, this guy's like, I don't know if I can even get to him because he's got so much influence going on. So I don't even know if I can collab with him on that level, because you got, all these people want to get to you, and for a good reason, man. You got an amazing mindset about you, and there's a lot of people that need that mindset to get to the next level. And a lot of people just need to hear your story to inspire them to do that next thing. Mostly on More Life, we talk about how people that have very little at the beginning go on and do amazing things, but your story is like deeply rooted in overcoming adversity, overcoming struggles, overcoming situations, trials, environment, because, you grew up in Chicago. And so what I want you to share with us today is more about your personal life, because everybody knows that you're an amazing multifamily real estate investor. So they know you as Dr. Multifamily, right? Dr. Dre. But I want you to talk about your upbringing in Chicago and how your family was set up. Like, how was things at 5 to 12 for you growing up in Chicago?
Chicago is everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Biological father was a drug addict. My mom did sales for FedEx.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all been in that situation where you're driving to work, you forget something, you turn back around. And on that day, that's what happened to my mom. She turns back around, walks in the house. She smells this funny smoke. And right in front of her, me and my triplet brothers, my biological father is sitting there shooting up and doing a bunch of substance. And from there, she walked away from the situation. And I remember us, the single mom and me and my small little brothers moving into my grandma in a neighborhood called Inglewood, which the way to paint it for my listeners that are not from Inglewood, Chief Keef, Lil Durk, all Old Block, G Herbo, that's Inglewood.
That's like the worst of the worst.
So that's almost one of the parts. And when we grew up there, and I remember just seeing everything that I was exposed to with just the loud music and the cars going down the street, bumping the music, shaking the houses, shaking the cars, women walking down the street, the drugs, the abandoned houses, the gunshots, always hearing them, seeing the bodies. And I wanted to emulate that. There was a dude in particular named Smoke who was one of the members of the sets of GDs, and I remember just looking up to him, the way he carried himself. He had the cars, he had the woman, he had the swag, and I'm like, man, I want that. He was respected, he was feared, and that's why for me, I joined the Gangster Disciples as a protection piece. But also too to just carry myself, that coming of age of a young man. I ain't have no example, I ain't had no better. All my uncles were drug addicts or street cats, and my cousins, and so I got into that, man, and that was some really pivotal years for me, because even though I did some things that I'm not necessarily proud of, it gave me perspective to value life. And I think now, as I'm in business and I'm in the motivational speaking and being an author and being a mentor and a coach to people, I rely on those tough experiences on the South Side of Chicago for appreciation and gratitude, but also in the sense of, when things get gritty and things get hard, I know that I've been in a lot of near-death situations that have my back against the wall.
Thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people they always see the end result. So they're seeing your success. You know, you're driving this nice car, you got all these deals going on, but it's really that grit that holds you to a standard, because you know the value, like you said, of life. You know that you could have been in this situation.
I'm so glad you said that.
Right.
I'm so glad you said that, because I think that it's so easy for people even now to look. I would hope they see through my brand and through how I carry myself that I am that. But I totally agree that it's so quick for people to look and see, oh, Dre has this, or even you can look at any person that has any type of influence or is a celebrity. Even if you look at Jeezy or even Beyonce or even Eric Thomas or Ed Milet, they look at where that person is at and they say to themselves, oh, I could do that, or I could be that. Mm-hmm. But no, understand this, right? If you work a W-2 job, you clock in at 9 to that 5. Mm-hmm. To be an entrepreneur, I have no time clock. I work 24/7. And the thing is, are you willing to get up at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. and also work on weekends and sacrifice and go on no sleep and be at the beck and call of your business and what you have to do and grind? Yeah. If you're willing to do that and go through that roller coaster and go through all those struggles and deal with the turmoils, then yes, then possibly you can be where I'm at and be an entrepreneur. But I think that people don't forget that they look at the image of it and they look at the lifestyle and they say, oh, I can do it, or I want to be that. And you try to duplicate it, but no, you can't duplicate the struggles, and you can't duplicate everything I went through that you don't even see. And I think for a lot of people, they fail to see that and grasp that. But I'm like, okay, then commit to getting up at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. and doing all these things and these sacrifices. Then if you can do that, then you can take my spot. Mm-hmm. But until you do that, you can't take my spot.
Exactly. So you don't live life right now with a mindset of like there's people in competition with you, because you're thinking ahead.
I never do that. And a lot of people do that, and I know that social media has magnified that.
Yeah.
But you are your own individual person. Mm-hmm. You have your own individual gifts and circumstances and situations. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Yeah. Know whether it's at your job or in business or in real estate. Completely different people, and you look different. Mm-hmm. It's just different.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get that social media and other things magnify that. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you stop comparing yourself to other people and you allow yourself to live your life through your own lens and write your own chapter, your own book, things will be a lot less stressful for you. And you'll also find that you can focus in and tap in the cards, the playing cards that were handed to you.
Yeah.
And then you, based on what was handed to you, you know what to draw and place on the table.
That's right.
But the sooner you look over at the next man's deck or woman's deck and you start looking at their hand and you trying to draw from that, that's when you start messing up.
Exactly.
And people don't even realize that.
They don't. There's a story in the Bible that always keeps me grounded. It's when David was going against Goliath, and King Saul was like, "Here's my armor," and he's like, "I don't need your armor. I know what killed the lion, and I know what killed the bear, and God gave me that." That was my story. Your story, growing up in Chicago in Inglewood, and having to deal with your dad shooting up and your mom, raising you. That's your overcoming the bear and the lion. So you already know what it takes to overcome those things, and you're going in with that. That's what people really need to understand. David's like, I don't need Saul's armor. This sling and these 3 rocks is all I needed to kill a lion and a bear. So I'm going to do the same thing God already showed me and go from there. And I think that's, people, the majority of people that are watching this podcast, they're looking for that inspiration. They want to be inspired. The inspiration is always going to be within, so you can hear your story, you can hear my story or whatnot. But at the end of the day, your story is really what's going to propel you to where you want to go. So going back, you said you have triplets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got two other brothers.
Two other brothers.
They look like you?
We're all tall.
He said we're all. You're gonna be like, I'm the best looking at it all.
Nah, I'm actually not. It's the oldest one, Anthony, probably.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, so how was that growing up with your siblings that are same age, same gender, and you guys are going through the same struggles together? Did all of you kind of come to the same conclusion and the same level of confidence and success?
We're all successful, but we all had different experiences growing up.
Gotcha.
My brothers are more video game people. They stayed in the house.
Got it.
And I'm more outgoing and spontaneous, and I found example through other means.
Got it. So while you were associated with the GDs, your brothers were not.
They were not.
Got it. And a lot of people need to understand that too. I was born in Southeast San Diego. Majority of my friends, they joined Lincoln Park Bloods, and we're all in the same environment, but I was just like, I'm going to go skateboard and video games like your brothers, So it's really just in the individual themselves and, their journey individually to get where they're at. And I just wanted to make sure that people know that.
It's really about decisions. There's a book called The Other Wes Moore by Wes Moore.
Yeah.
And out of Baltimore, and he takes this story where there's two kids that grew up on the same block, both named Wes Moore, ironically. Yeah. One goes to prison for life. One ends up becoming an Army officer, a Truman Scholar, a Rhodes Scholar, goes on to get his degree at Johns Hopkins and wrote 2 best-selling books and is now working in politics, governor, and that's Wes Moore. And so this other, both single family, grew up in a single family mom household, and he writes this story and compares the 2 lives between the two, and it ultimately comes down to it's a choice.
That's all it is. And I don't think that here's the big issue that a lot of people there's a conclusion that people come to. The stuff that you went through, it gave you the grit in the background to be able to withstand hardships, right? Yeah. But if somebody doesn't go through that grit, let's say somebody came from a nice background, middle class family, no issues, which I've interviewed people like that. How does somebody like that still have the motivation to overcome if they didn't go through any trials and tribulations like that?
I think that you can also create adversity for yourself, put yourself in situations. End of the day, if you are pushing yourself back, let me backtrack. You're right. If you come from a circumstance with family or an environment, in a way you are birthed into that.
Yeah.
And that could be a thing. But there's a lot of people that are birthed into that don't come out. That don't rise up. So again, it comes down to a choice in factors. Now on the other end, if you have someone that is not birthed into it and it's not handed to them, if you're pushing and you're becoming your all in life, you're going to face adversity. It's inevitable. If you're extremely pushing yourself and maxing out life, it's going to come. So at that point, it's how you respond. When I hear that, all that tells me is if you came from money or you came with things where you were well off and you're not pushing yourself and you're just coasting, then that's why, because you're just coasting. But if you then took those resources in that great fortunate circumstance you had and you pushed yourself to your limits, and you use those things to push yourself to your limits, you're going to hit a point where it's going to get difficult, it's going to get tough. And at that point, it's on you on how you respond and rise above it. Or you can also practice that appreciation by going to visit certain areas or cultures that give you that perspective. Because there are people that do that too. It's just like parents that grew up in an impoverished neighborhood or grew up in the hood somewhere, and then they will bring their kids to where they live so they can see that. There's ways that you can practice that too.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So going back to your journey, you're about to graduate from high school. What's your mindset at that point of your life?
it was about proving
Mm-hmm.
myself wrong and proving everybody wrong.
Which is the book the first book you wrote.
First book, yeah.
Yeah. So your mindset was proving everybody else wrong. How are you going to do it?
Well, just being told that, let's see if you make it to the Naval Academy. And obviously I wasn't smart enough, nor did I have the grades or the acumen to get directly accepted into the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. I was sent to this prep school in Rhode Island. And once you're there, it's like, okay, let's see if you make it through. And there was a 2.2 GPA, minimum GPA that you needed. I barely made the 2.2. I was studying every single day. I harassed my teachers. And then there was a learning counselor that I worked with every day as well, in addition to the EI with my instructors. Mm-hmm. And that was supposed to go through different ways of different learning habits, such as, are you visual, are you kinesthetic, etc. And even though in that year time frame I barely made it with the 2.2, at some point when I finally got to the Naval Academy, something clicked and I just dialed in and figured it out. And all I did was combine that with my hustle. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, okay, now you made it to the Naval Academy, Dre. Everyone's still saying the same thing to you. Let's see if you make it through plebe year, freshman year. Make it through. Okay, let's see if you graduate. And I kept that same energy. I kept that same fire, that same underdog mentality that was in me. And I leveraged all that to push myself through.
Do you still have that underdog mentality even now?
Yes. I don't think that's ever going to come out of me. I think that I always view myself as the kid from Chicago. Mm-hmm. That's my term.
Yeah.
I just think that I'm going to always think about where I come from. And I mean, it's tatted on me. I've got my grandparents on the left. I've got Chicago all over me on the right. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be ways for me to think about it. And I can sit here in this seat and think about the abuse and think about the drive-bys and think about the shootouts and think about the screams and think about the bodies and think about the cloud of depression and hardship over Chicago. I can think about the South Side and immediately go there. Mm-hmm. If I get to a point where I'm unmotivated for that day or in that moment, I can think about that. I can think about my mom and what she went through and take myself there, and I'm back on. And I also try to go there as well to practice that. I would make a point to visit once or twice a year to also put myself back in that survival mode. I'm driving through Southside. I'm watching my back. I got my head on a swivel. I do that too on purpose because it immediately rushes in the perspective. The moment you land, like, you back at it.
Yeah.
And then you come back to San Diego.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I think that those stories motivate people. And the story of you coming out of all of that and to where you're at right now, as a successful author and real estate investor, oh, by the way, in the Navy as an officer, right? So all these success stories coming from that is a story that I think draws a lot of people to you. Also, I noticed, like, I went to one of your events recently where you were speaking. You're a very charismatic speaker as well. So it's one thing to be an author. It's one thing to, have this, story, but to be able to speak to the story in front of people, that's another level of gifting, man. So you're very talented at what you do. And I think that what you do inspires people probably without you doing it. There's probably people that are going to be watching these clips and being like, dude, just like, people helped you to get where you're at right now, you're helping people directly or indirectly get to the next. Like, you're helping me, man. Like, I'm inspired by you and what you do. So, thanks for sharing that inspiration. Thanks for sharing that with the world and with the community. And here in San Diego, I call San Diego my hometown. So I love San Diego. I was born in Detroit, and I think I shared with you, I spent about 2 years in Detroit, from 15 to 17, and I joined the Navy right after that. So Detroit, being in that as a skateboarding kid from San Diego, in the middle of 7 and 8 Mile and having the block fights and all that stuff, playing basketball on the basketball court, guns flying out. That stuff is in my mind too, and it does motivate me. It motivates me. I look at my kids, I look at my wife, and all that stuff motivates me. I'm like, yes, we're not in that situation. We've overcame. And I like the fact that your story has all these, oh, by the way, is this person, I had this person helping me with academics, and this, the other day when you're speaking, you're talking about Keegan, how he helps you. And I love the fact that you recognize these people helping you along the way, and then you're always giving back to people. I just hit up Justin Woods the other day. He's like, yeah, we went golfing. And I hit Keegan up, yeah, I'm right here with Dre right now. I'm like, dang, dude, that's to me, that's just a testament of your character. People want to take you golfing. People want to go get some food with you. People want to do podcasts with you. People want to hear you speak, right? So, yeah, that's a character thing, man. How important do you think it is for people to have a similar mindset as you in business?
I would say it all comes down to relationships and your network. I think I talked about this a little bit before when we were doing the speaking. I used to think that the money and the deals was the number one thing, but I've learned that it's not. It really is your mindset and your connections and the relationships that you build and how you value that and how you cherish that. Obviously, no one's perfect. You're going to make mistakes. Everyone's not going to always see eye to eye, but how you handle things. And for example, one thing I've seen is someone cannot see eye to eye on something, or they might have a disagreement on something, but in business, it's best to conceal your tongue. I don't go out and speak ill about people, even if I have thoughts about them in business. You keep that to yourself, right? Because if you're going to do that to that person, that also means you're going to do that to someone else.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, like, man, we got to put that on a tag somewhere. That's,
you know what I mean?
That's like, it's to me, it's like 101 is like, there's a law in the Bible. It's the law of the prophets. And it's basically treat others how you want to be treated.
It's beyond that though. Yeah. It is treat others how you want to be treated. But think of it this way, right? Especially in business and real estate and things people being so close. If you have a disagreement, whatever it may be, if you go and then you start running your mouth and saying that to other people, first of all, you never know who another person knows and the relationship that other person has. So then that could come back and bite you in the end. Yeah. There was a saying that they had even in the Naval Academy where it's like, be careful what you say to your superiors. It was the laws of the Navy. Yeah. And we had it in this blue book called Repoints, and it literally says that you be careful what you say, not only about your superiors to other people, but also to just people in business and colleagues in general, because that will always come back to you. One way or another, you never know. And then you can, and you might not realize it, but you could find yourself burning your own bridges and putting a sword in your own back because of the way you immaturely chose to handle situations. Instead of being adult enough to say, you know what, let me keep my thoughts to myself, that it's life. And even in relationships too, right? Even if you were dating someone within the industry or whatever, it's best that you keep that, because I've seen that too. I've seen like agents, they would date and then they would have a disagreement and then they go and badmouth the person that they were with to someone else. And I've seen it happen multiple times. But then what happens right now, you messed up your business because you both went and badmouthed each other to other people in the real estate industry. And now look what happened. If you just would have kept that quiet. Yeah. I get having disagreements or whatever, but like you should have kept it to yourself, not go and say these bad things about this person, because again, you never know who that person knows. And then you might not know in the future that you might need that person, or ties might cross where you could do business together, but because of the way it was handled in an immature manner, you now burn that bridge.
Man, that's heavy. That's a whole story in itself, man.
We weren't even trying to get on relationships, but or business stuff like that. But
oh my goodness, I mean, it's good to hear, because it's reassuring that, I think you need to have that barrier with people as well. Like, just be wise, about, you know, your relationships, but also I think it's important just to be you, like be transparent. Like, hey, when I like, when, for example, when me and you met up at my office, I was dealing with some pastoral stuff at the same time. I'm like, yeah, I'm dealing with this right now too. You know, I'm dealing with some other stuff, but I'm like, let's get back to the mindset. So there's like, to me, I feel like it's better to just be like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I got, and this is where I'm going, and just be straight up with people. And if that turned into a relationship, then that's great. If it doesn't, hey, then that wasn't for you. But I'm big on finding your tribe and finding your people and just being, you know, my great grandmother used to say, just love everybody, you know, love everybody. You don't have to be best friends with everybody, but your job on earth is just to spread love. You know, that's your main job. Without that, then we ain't having no business. If we don't show each other love, we're not getting nothing going. Nothing's going. If you're just like Krabby Patty and concealed, and I'm not talking to him, and I'm not doing this, I ain't doing business with them, and if you're like that, you're gonna be sitting there by yourself at the end of the day. So let me go back to where you're at now. So now you had this upbringing in Chicago. You got your other two brothers, triplets, your dad. By the way, do you still talk to your dad?
I don't have any relationship at all. I've never have.
Never have, man. And then here you are as I know you don't have kids, but you know, helping people, giving people guidance, that's a very fatherly attribute. So that's good on you, man. You figured it out without that relationship, and a lot of people don't. So that, and also on that, even though you didn't have that relationship, you didn't play victim. Some people do play victim, like, well, I didn't have a dad, so I don't know any better. So that's why I'm doing this and this and that, you know. So good on you for doing that. Obviously, you trained sailors too, so there's a lot of fathering in that as well.
That there is.
But yeah, one guy is like, Petty Officer Johnson, I don't even know how to shave. I'm like, I thought you did that in boot camp. I want to buy this car, and it's like 12% interest or whatever, 24% interest. I'm like, oh, I got to teach you everything, you know? But okay, so we're moving on. You got past, and then you got through the Naval Academy. You're a successful naval officer, and right now, you're a successful author and speaker, and you have how many doors?
101.
101 doors. Amazing. What is your goal moving forward? What's your vision? Like, where do you want to be 10 years from now?
I don't really know. It's that kid from Chicago mentality again.
Yeah.
I can never dream that far. I always pretty much operate in where God has me in the present moment.
Yeah.
And I just hustle and open every door and every opportunity that he tells me to do. I fill it to the max.
Yeah.
And that's always how I've lived my life and operated, pretty much. So ideally, right, I would love to continue to write more books, and do more speaking and do more real estate deals. But we will see, because what you think, you can be as ambitious as you want, but what you think are the plans for you, God might not always be the ultimate destination. And he might take that and propel me into something else.
Yeah.
But right now, I would say that it will be that.
Awesome, man. And so please tell the people where they can find your books. You have 2 out, and also how they can find you on social media as well.
Yes, I have 3 out.
3 out.
ProveThemWrongTheBook.com. They can see everything. DrMultifamily.com. Or they can just do Dr. Multifamily on all social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and they can pull up everything that they need. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. They can go on the websites, type in the book, it'll come up, and they can go from there. Looking at Prove Them Wrong, The League of Wealth, and That's My Property.
That's My Property. Really quick, that one has so much amazing tools in it. Well, me and my wife were like, we're buying that right now. I mean, you got like all the way down to the terms in real estate. So like the lingo. Well, a lot of people, I still like, I'm talking to loan officers like, what? What are you talking about? So, you know, and I've been doing this for like 4 years and I'm still trying to figure it out. So I love that you have those, like, you could start there if you want. Like, this is this, ARV is this, and all that stuff. You can start there. So amazing book. And then lastly, what's one thing you want to tell the audience about your grind and success, and just something to inspire them?
At some point, there is no excuse.
Yeah.
Either you do everything it takes to make it happen, or you don't.
Enough said.